أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our iTVusa show, Balancing Deen and Dunya. My name is Dr. Suzy Ismail from Cornerstone, and I'm happy to be with you again as we continue to meet incredible community leaders, service providers, and influential and inspirational figures throughout the US as they tell us about their journey through life and in balancing Deen and Dunya in the work that they do. Today, we're honored to have a great guest with us, Brother Shomail Malik, who is currently the managing partner at Apex Capital Group, which is a private real estate firm. He has completed over 600 real estate transactions and raised over $70 million in private capital, predominantly from the Muslim American community. He's co-authored 3 Amazon best-selling books on business and real estate, and he's completed his undergraduate degree in neuroscience and economics at Rutgers University in New Jersey. He also graduated with honors from the executive MBA program at Rutgers Business School. He's the founder of Halal Food Fest, a Khatib development workshop, and he serves on several boards, including the board of Cornerstone, the board of An-Noor Academy, and Ma'oun Federal Credit Union. He currently lives in Princeton, New Jersey, with his wife and 3 children. So welcome to Brother Shomail. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining our show. We really appreciate you being here and talking to us a little bit about the work that you do and the journey that led you into this field. So, Brother Shomail, based on your bio, it sounds like you are in a field that tends to be a little volatile, maybe. Investments, real estate, things that, many of us hear a lot about, but may not know a lot about. Can you share a little bit more about your day-to-day work and what Apex Capital actually does?
Yeah, sure. So if you ever watch Flip This House on HGTV or any of those shows on HGTV, that's exactly what we do, but I guess you can say on steroids. So we find distressed properties, we fix them up, and then we sell them. Now, the only, uh, you know, when you're purchasing these properties, it's not like buying tickets, right? You're putting several hundreds of thousands of dollars online. And if you're going to do that at scale, then the question becomes, how do you do that with, with all of that capital being deployed? Where do you get that from? And so what we've done is we've created a profit sharing model where investors from the American Muslim community invest with us. It's co-investment type of a model, and we share the profits at the end of it. So we underwrite these deals, make sure that when we go into them, that it's almost a sure shot. I mean, you're never guaranteed anything when it comes to investments. Alhamdulillah, we have an excellent track record. We've been doing this for 14 years. And we renovate the property. What that does, it forces the price of that property to go up. And then when you sell it, there's a substantial profit that comes out on the back end. And then we simply share that with other investors. So it gives people another alternative route. A lot of people are wary of the stock market. And in particular, a lot of the investment asset classes that exist out there are just not compliant with our faith. And so it gives people another option that I'm working so hard for my money, but, I need to put that money to work for me as well. And so this gives them that option to be able to do so. And so, I think it was August of 2012. I remember it, extremely well. Our local masjid here, ISCJ Route 1. We were doing this with our own money in the beginning, with our own capital. And then I would get, some of the amus in my family together, and maybe they would chip in. And then we did that for about 4.5 years, and built a track record that way while I was working in corporate America. I used to be in the pharmaceutical industry. And after about 4 years, we did a nice little, dinner, invited some of the folks from the masjid there, working professionals. And they said, yeah, it looks like you've been doing this all along. You've got enough proof to show that this concept works. And at that time, we had a deal right by St. Peter's University Hospital on New Brunswick Road, I think it was. I'm sorry, 123 Jefferson Avenue. And we went in. I asked around that dinner table, I'm just looking for soft commitments of $10,000. And enough people wrote back and said, yeah, I'm willing to invest into this. We bought the property for about $150,000. We put about $50,000 to renovate if anybody's done renovations on their own home, you know how that works. So redoing the kitchen and the bathroom are the main things because that's what really sells houses. And then full remodeling property. And so we were all in for about 210,000 with closing costs and everything. And then within 3 months, we sold that property for $330,000. So now that profit that comes out, about 125,000, was then shared amongst the investors and then our company. And then we go and do that again and again and again. So that's essentially what we do. When COVID happened, and not to be so long-winded, but when COVID happened, that changed quite a lot of things. Prices have gone, significantly higher now. And what happens is when you're fixing up these properties, the money's tied up for like 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. So one of the things that we're very good at, and we noticed that amongst ourselves, know thyself is one of the key business principles that everyone has to embrace. We found out that, our skill set was really finding these off-market properties. Whereas most people, Suzy, if you needed to find a property that you want to invest in, you're probably going to go on Zillow or Realtor or, Trulia.com. There's no information asymmetry. The information you have available is the same information that I have available. So, the secret sauce is really to find property owners that have some sort of motivation, whether the property is distressed or they just inherited a property and they want to get rid of it, or they went through a divorce, God forbid, and there's so much sentimental value tied up in that house. And now let's say the husband gets the house or the wife gets the house, but they're like, oh, I don't want this house. I've got too many memories here. I want to just sell it. And a lot of times they sell it for, a percentage of what the property is actually worth to a cash buyer. And so we come in and we make an offer on that property. And then what we're able to do is, instead of being the person that's going to fix and flip the house, we actually take our contract, we close on the property, and then we sell it to that rehabber. So today what we do is one step prior in the supply chain, where we're basically finding the properties for these folks and then just selling it to them without even picking up a hammer. And that allows us to scale the business a lot faster. And it allows me to, step back a little bit, where I can have most of this delegated, and the folks in the on the front lines are doing most of the work. Yeah.
So subhanAllah, it sounds like quite a process, and it involves like multiple steps, to try to get to that end goal. I like the fact that you brought in the halal concept in terms of investing. There's a lot of questions about, stocks and bonds and what's permissible and what's not permissible. And it sounds like with this, it's, a clear line in terms of, putting money into something, fixing it, selling it again, and receiving that money back. Now, I noticed in your bio that one of the groups that you are on the board for is also related to money and financial matters, which is Ma'oon Credit Union. I don't know if our viewers know a lot about credit unions. I know I don't, What is the concept of the credit union? Knowing that Ma'oon is affiliated with some of the different masajids in Central Jersey, what makes it different from a bank and more halal maybe in terms of the usage?
Yeah, for sure. So Ma'oon is actually the first federally chartered credit union in the United States. And it's our aspiration to now start bolting on other masajid outside of the two that currently house all of its members. So depositors become members, and they have voting rights, right? And the purpose of the credit union, it's a not-for-profit entity. So just a quick primer, nonprofit, your goal is to maximize revenues in order to serve the cause that you serve, such as Cornerstone, Islamic Relief, and others. A not-for-profit takes all of the revenues that it creates, additional surpluses, and it has to put it back into the business itself, right? So that doesn't go out to its owners or, other stakeholders. It has to go back into the business. So Ma'un is a not-for-profit. The meaning of Ma'un from the Quran, small kindness, the reason that it was started was, there's a lot of folks in our community that are, looking for auto financing. They have oppressive credit card debt, 26% APR. They're paying interest and so on. They can come to Ma'un as account holders, apply for a loan. Now, instead of charging interest on the loan, what we do instead is we just charge an application fee up front. So that's how we're able to monetize and pay our bills and stay afloat. And the more loan applications that come in, the more revenues that are generated from there. And that's how we basically, keep the lights on. And from there, we're able to then give loans for auto financing. It'll be between 3 to 4 years. So they have 36 to 48 months of equal payments that they can make at 0% interest to pay back. Now, of course, there's an underwriting process. We have professionals that are on our board that are part of the loan committee that oversee all of that. They'll check credit scores. They'll check that the person is gainfully employed and look at their pay stubs and all of that. But it's like a banking institution, but it's really there to serve its members. Whereas a banking institution is really, is running under the capitalistic schematic, where its purpose is to maximize profits by all means necessary and give loans and things like that. So we don't operate that way, and we chartered it this way so that we can do it in a halal fashion without any interest being taken. And alhamdulillah, very recently we had an audit. We passed with flying colors, which gave us the green light to now add other masajid and thereby their congregants and constituents to Ma'un. So the more deposits that are made, obviously we can't lend all of that money out. So the more deposits that are made, the more loans we're able to give out. That includes people that are struggling with things like, student tuition, college tuition loans. That's a big one. Auto financing. We're not in the business of giving any home loans. I think Guidance and UIF and those companies are doing just fine with that. But then also helping people get out of credit card debt. So what we do, just to be more clear on that, let's say somebody has $8,000 worth of credit card debt. They saw a really good Black Friday sale. They bought a bunch of stuff over time, and then they lost their job or whatever happened. Some life circumstance happened. This helps them to pay that off. They, of course, fill out an application. They pay their application fee. We give them the money as a loan. They pay off that, high interest credit card debt, and then they pay us back in payment. So it's almost like a Qard Hasan, in a way, 0% interest loan. So that's essentially how it works. Now, all of the governing bodies are parallel. So you have the National Credit Union Administration, right? The NCUA oversees all of the activities of all of the credit unions that are in the United States. So they insure up to $250,000. On the banking side, you have the FDIC. Over here, we have the NCUA. So they are both parallel systems. They look and operate very similar, but they're not similar because federal credit unions, especially Ma'un, it's a not-for-profit organization.
Right, subhanAllah. So it's definitely very eye-opening to know that these options exist. And I think for a lot of us in the Muslim American community, we are kind of just coming of age in terms of becoming more financially savvy with investments, with alternative avenues that align with the principles of halal financial decision making. So what brought you to this pathway, Shomail? What is it that first intrigued you or sparked your interest to get involved in this sector?
It's not that I went out seeking these opportunities. I've been involved in Islamic work since high school. So we had, high schools don't usually have an MSA. And we established the Crescent Club in Franklin High School in Somerset, where I grew up. And that always kept a seed inside of me to always do community work. So whatever I was doing, whether it was going to school, there was always going to be some aspect of my schedule that went towards back into the community. When I, what happens, I think a lot of times we attend classes, we're students of knowledge, we're going to MSA, and then we graduate and we enter the workforce. And then I think a lot of people go into this we lose them inside of this black hole, because maybe there's not opportunities there that are looking for them. But I say that you actually have to look for opportunities yourself. For example, Young Muslims, which is chartered under ICNA, right? Young Muslims takes you up until a certain age, but then after you stop work, going to YM, where do you go next? And a lot of people graduate into doing work with ICNA and things like that. But for an MSA, after you're going to Islamic Society of Rutgers University, for example, when you finish up, where do you go next? So I've always been involved. My goal was always to, do whatever work I was going to do, but it was going to hopefully serve the overall community. So first 11 and a half years, I worked in corporate America, but I never stopped being involved in the community, whether it was giving khutbahs or, whatever events that I could get involved with, right? And if you make yourself useful, and I know Imam Jawad had always told us in the class, make the dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses you for his work, because he doesn't have to. You can always be replaced by somebody else. And truth be told, outside of the handful of people, most of us will probably be forgotten 2 weeks after our janazah, right? And the goal is to hopefully leave some sort of legacy so that people have good things to say about you at your janazah, but hopefully it carries on and continues to benefit people afterwards. And if you move with that frame of mind from the get-go, you can't be lazy. You can't be unmotivated. It makes you, want to do and be involved in Islamic work, things that are going to have lasting impact. So just being around and in that proximity, people then call on you, So for example, NBIC, New Brunswick Islamic Center, is looking for land to build a masjid, right? They know I'm involved in real estate amongst a couple of other brothers. So just because you're involved in the community, obviously you get pulled into these projects accordingly. And so that's what it is, if you show availability, 90% of it is showing up. You'll find yourself into the projects that you're passionate about.
So, subhanAllah, I like how you talk about, being part of the community, being present, also bringing the community together. And I think you do that with, some of the other initiatives you're involved in. The Halal Food Festival, which I know is being revived, coming back the first week of September in New Jersey, the Khatib development. Can you tell us a little bit about those initiatives?
Yeah, absolutely. So years ago, we had, and we still run numerous basketball leagues with Muslim basketball, and that was going to evolve into something called MYCC, Muslim Youth Community Center, which was supposed to be, kind of like a JCC, Jewish Community Center, or a YMCA, which is actually a Christian organization. Young Muslims Christian organization is what YMCA is. So we wanted a Muslim version of that. And as we were going around looking at community centers, there was one in Fairlawn that was doing a food fest. It was called, I forgot what it was called, but like the best foods of Fairlawn, something like that. So wouldn't it be amazing? This is 2012. Now we see halal food fest all over the place today, but we did the very first one at NBIC way back then. Douglas Pizza was a part of it. And, I have an interesting story. So people came from like California and all over the place, and they got hotel rooms near NBIC to attend. And this was like, Facebook was a little bit earlier in its use for events. So we put the event up on Facebook. It looked like 1,400 people had RSVP'd, and NBIC doesn't hold that many people, right? So that's one thing to know. The second thing is we asked people that were very savvy with social media, if I get 1,400 yeses on a Facebook events, how many people show? And people told us it's a 50% show rate. So you should be expecting like 700 to 800 people. 4,000 people showed up. Okay. So 4,000 people showed up. It was an absolute circus. And they had to replace the carpet following it. There was so much foot traffic there. But nothing like that had been done at the time. Then from there, you see Baltimore, UK, Toronto, Chicago launched their own. This was after 2012. But it was an interesting experiment. The next year, we partnered with ISCJ. We did it outdoors at Roland Park, similar numbers between 5,000 to 7,000 people. And then we did it about 4 years in a row. And then, people just got busy with lives and, they had kids and things like that. So that's what it was. That was the Halal Food Festival. The Khatib Development Workshop started, myself and brother Faraz Khan. Faraz put me up to do a khutbah when I was at NBIC back when I was, I think, just gotten married. And we were just having a discussion about the quality of khutbahs and being able to connect with the audience with relevant khutbahs. And we said, wouldn't it be an interesting idea if we started training the next crop of khatibs? And not so that everybody is a scholar or a student of knowledge, but everybody brings a different vantage point, especially living in America. I feel like all of us in our own way are like carrying a machete inside of a jungle, figuring out our own ways and how to practice our deen, with what we're given right here in the West. And so everybody has unique experiences, whether they went to public school, whether they went to private school or Catholic school or Islamic school. Everybody can share from stories. And then now if you connect that with ayat and hadith, somebody as young as 15 years old can get up on a minbar and tell me something that's profound enough that, might change the way I think or how I carry myself or just have an aha moment. And that's what we want. We want people to reinvigorate the iman so that people leave energized. And, you don't have to be the most captivating speaker, but you have to be able to connect with your audience. And how many times have we gone to a Jummah khutbah and people are looking at their phones, or they're taking a nap, which also happens, or they're just completely tuned out, or they're drawing something on the carpet. They're not listening, right? And that's for a multitude of reasons, whether the topic or the speaker is not connecting and so on. So we wanted to train people how to give effective khutbahs. As a matter of fact, right now upstairs, we're doing a part 2 of that. So outside of just khutbahs, how to conduct a nikah, a fundraiser, and janaza, which are a little bit more specialized. So we have speakers upstairs right now that are actually conducting that workshop right now.
So, mashallah, you shared quite a bit of information with us. And just to summarize it for our viewers who might be interested in some of these initiatives. So we started out our conversation talking about the work that you do on a day-to-day basis with Apex Capital Group, halal investing in essentially flipping homes, being able to purchase homes, renovate them, resell them, and then sharing the profits in a way that is aligned with Islamic principles. Mm-hmm. Then you shared a little bit about the Ma'un Credit Union, which for people who are interested in joining a credit union rather than a traditional bank, it is a not-for-profit entity, and it is again guided by halal principles and creates avenues of loans that are interest-free for those who may need it for car purchasing, education, things of that sort. And people can definitely go online and look up Ma'un Credit Union to learn a bit more of that. And then you kind of took us into your community service work and the work that you do for the community. For those viewers who are just joining us, Brother Shomail Malik just talked a little bit about the Halal Food Festival, which is happening September 1st in Roland Park in New Jersey. And it is a collaboration with the Islamic Society of Central Jersey, and some of the other communities, organizations, and groups will be there. So if you're interested in learning more about the Halal Food Festival, then I would definitely encourage our viewers to go online and go onto the ISCJ website. I believe there's information about the Halal Food Festival there that'll be happening in New Jersey on September 1st. You also talked a little bit about the Khatib Development Workshop. I know you're juggling quite a few things today, Brother Shomail. You're in the MCMC Masjid currently. You had mentioned, there's a program going on upstairs. I know these Khatib Development Workshops happen at different times throughout the year. And for people who are interested in joining, signing up their children, that's something that they can learn more about by visiting Brother Shomail's social media handles, most likely the ISCJ, MCMC, some of the different masajid in the central New Jersey area that are involved with this work. So one last question for you, Brother Shomail, before we wrap up our program today. Our focus on this show is really how do those who are so involved in the community balance life, balance deen and dunya. And sometimes when we're, kind of running in the rat race of financial strength, maybe looking for things that are focused maybe more on the dunya, it can be hard sometimes to find that balance with deen. How do you do it with your family, with your children, and with the work that you do and your community service?
So, alhamdulillah, our deen is expansive, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful in that every act that we do can be akhirah focused, right? So even if you're working, a lot of things are going to be seasonal. Sometimes you do have to, just buckle down and only focus on work, right? And sometimes you can only focus on a community project because things just have to get done and there's deadlines and so on and so forth. The first thing I would say is make yourself available and let people know that you're available, ready, and willing to volunteer and what your skill sets are. So that, because trust me, the Muslim community is not short of volunteers anywhere. We could always use volunteers in pretty much every single one of our initiatives. It's not like we're at a cap and we're saying we're turning people away. I don't think that's a problem today, right? So number one, show people that you're available, let them know what your skill sets are and how you can get involved. I think that right there is the first step, because a lot of people just are so comfortable with go to work, come back, watch my Netflix programs, and then a potluck lunch or dinner on the weekends with some family and friends. And then we repeat this cycle 40, 45 years, and then you end up in your grave. That's not life, right? If you lead a purpose-filled life, you have to know that you have to get involved. It's an obligation upon you to serve the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so, in terms of balance, I don't know if you can ever really strike a balance, right? If I'm too involved in community work right now, then I'm going to just unplug and just take some time from my family. And I'll be unbalanced in that way, meaning I'm fully devoted and, committed to family time right now. So phones and all of those things need to, stay on the wayside. And I'm going to let all of my, all the people in the organizations that I work with and so on, let them know that I'm away for a few days. So that my family doesn't feel like they're getting the short end of the stick. Also, how many times have we seen, the imam of the masjid and so on and so forth are so involved, but their kids are not as involved in the, in Islamic work or in the community and so on. It's because they're being neglected, right? So you do have to, we always say the 4 F's. So faith, family, finances, and fitness. Your health is super important in terms of maintaining high level of energy so you can do all of this stuff, right? But if you can focus on those 4 quadrants of your life, the 4 F's, then I think you could probably live to the max of your potential, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you.
SubhanAllah, that's very good advice. And I think, being able to segment and be present, have that hudur when you are, doing each project in your life, including spending that time with family, with friends, developing the self through different avenues. I think that's super important advice. And I'm sure our viewers at ITV are very grateful to having gotten to know you a little bit better today. I think you've given us all lots of different avenues that we can look into in terms of getting involved with community initiatives, different projects that we can also get involved in. And we really do thank you for joining us today. I know you're juggling many things, so we appreciate you being present and being with us today. Jazakumullahu khair for all of our ITV USA viewers for joining us in today's episode of Balancing Deen and Dunya. I hope to see you again. Our episodes air every other Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jazakum Allahu khair. Wassalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.